I wish to welcome you all to the Gambia Immigration Department Migration Unit here in Tanje. It is another occasion where we want to give you highlights of our engagements towards migration issues, particularly when it comes to irregular migrations. It is not a news to you that GID had intensified efforts over the past months to make sure that people who want to leave this country irregularly are also handled. Now we have registered numerous occasions whereby Gambians who want to leave the country had been intercepted. But again, we have seen different dynamics that have been raised of recent, and we want to share with you some of these registered successes. Now, there are different cases that we want to share with you just in the course of 1 month, that is from the 7th of June down to today, the 10th of July, 2025. Now, when you look at the records of what we have registered this particular month, you will tend to realize that there is a peak when it comes to migration matters. There are movements every now and then, and it is only through the vigilance of the GID that we're able to sometimes mitigate some of these practices. Now, before we go through the statistics of some of these cases, I would want to share with you that we have observed in different cases that the modus operandi of most of these organizers comes in different folds, but particularly the organizers in most cases are not even Gambians. They are non-Gambians who would come to the country, recruit migrants or recruit them in other West African countries, and then bring them to the Gambia as a transit. Now, in most cases, their payments are done in installments. It is not done using any bank accounts, but it is done installment. And it ranges from 25,000 going down to $80,000. And when we are able to receive some of these cases, it becomes hard for you to trace the money because there is no track of how it was being paid because it is all physically done. But then we've also noticed that the surge of irregular migration occurs in key communities within the Gambia. And in most of these cases includes the areas of Katong, Gunjur, Sanyang, Tangi, and also of recent we had seen others around Bara as well. And these areas we've mentioned all fall within the coastal lines, the coastal belt, and one can now be able to gauge why are they always using these particular areas. So it means as personnel within the immigration society, and also as citizens, we need to know what efforts can we play to be able to at least mitigate these practices. Now, looking at the cases from June, starting with June 7, 2025, there was an interception made in Brekama around 2100 hours at night. This interception, we were able to have 22 would-be migrants in the interception. And then chiefly among all those that were intercepted are non-Gambians. We had only one Gambian who was in that particular interception. We had 13 Guineans. There were 3 Malians. We also had 2 Ivorians and 1 Zambian. Now, from the numbers we've had, Zambia had not been a common case in the Gambia. But now we have seen people outside the West African bloc also being involved through the Gambia here. Now, by gender aggregation, we had 10 of them who were males, 12 of them were females, and this includes 1 minor who is a male, and again a minor who is a female. That is 2 minors altogether in the first case. Now, this case occurred in Brekama on the 7th of June, 2025. Now, in that case, we've understood that there are 2 smugglers who were involved. And again, most of these migrants in their operandi nowadays, they will not just go to the sea directly. They would lodge in a particular vicinity in a community. And there was a landlord that harbored them in that particular area. And then the main organizer of the case is believed to be Abdullahi Yafa, who remains at large at this particular point in time. Now, in the second case, it happened at Tangi, Batokunku. We had it on the 11th of June, 2025. 46 would-be migrants were intercepted in these operations, and this includes 6 Gambians, 23 Senegalese, 7 Guineans, 6 Malians, and 4 Ivorians in this case. So you can again see in the comparative analysis that we still have only a few Gambians involved in that particular case as well. The demographics, we have 41 of them who were males, 5 of them were females, and we had 1 minor who's a female also in that particular case. The organizer of this particular trip is believed to be Abdoulaye Lo, who is also a Senegalese national, and Adam Adem, who is a Gambian national. Now again, you would see that interconnection between how Senegambians are able to connect in trying to organize most of these trips. While it occurs within the Gambia, we can now see that West African countries are using the Gambia as a route to be able to connect into other countries. Now, talking about the third case that occurred in Bara on the 20th of June, 2025, we had 17 would-be migrants that were intercepted. In the same number, we have just 5 Gambians, 7 Guineans, 3 Senegalese, and 2 Malians. So again, based on the number aggregate 2, the Gambian number still remains at a lower scale. We had 12 of them that were male, 5 of them were female, and 2 female minors who are also involved in the case. When it comes to those that are seen as suspects in that case, we have 3 smugglers, which include Kadim Jai, who was able to provide a safe house in Tangi for the migrants, and Bachili, who was able to facilitate the crossing point of the people via the Amdalai border post. And this occurred on the 20th of June, 2025. Moving forward, we had another case in the same month, June, which occurred at Jara Soma, a very rare case where we see interceptions made around those areas like Jara Soma. But then, if they are now expanding to other regions, we have to ask ourselves again, why are they shifting the dynamics? Is it because they have seen us registering more success within the Greater Banjul area here, and now they want to explore more areas? And that will still call for more vigilance from other regions in the Gambia, that they have no single place where they want to stay, and they will look for all routes to be able to travel within the Gambia. Now in that case, we had Lamin Jete, who is believed to be the suspect of that particular case, and Lamin is a Gambian from Kiang Tankular. We were able to recover 1 large wooden boat and 2 40 horsepipe Yamaha engine in that particular case. And we had co-suspects of Lamin, which includes Sekou Kamara and also Lamin Jaju, who are both Gambians in that circumstance. Moving forward, we had another case which occurred in July. So in the month of June, we had close to 8 cases, right? But then let's look at the cases we had in June. In July, for example, we're just in the first week of July. Today is the 10th of July. And we have received more than 3 interceptions in just that particular week. And what is most shocking is the number had increased tremendously when it comes to the case of July. The first case we had was in Katong. In Katong, we had 8 migrants that were intercepted on the 3rd of July, 2025. This includes 2 minors, and they were all found at the Katong border crossing point where they were intercepted. Now we again had another case in Katong on Saturday, 6th July 2025. So Katong becomes also a hub when it comes to irregular migration activities. And in the second case that occurred on the 6th of July, we had 31 would-be migrants who were intercepted. The suspect, the agent who was found in the investigation, was Mohamed Njai, who is a Senegalese at the age of 29, and was apprehended during the operations. Now the key organizers, they have agents. You have the main organizers and the sub-agents that they also come in contact with. And in some cases, the main organizer stays outside the country, and then the agents would be the one that recruit people within the country. So we had Lamin Sarr, who's also a Senegalese, but he's resident in Spain. So somebody staying in Spain, but still being able to recruit people to go into this route as well. And then we also have a sub-agent, that is Janko, who remains at large as we speak. And this case occurred on Saturday, 6 July 2025. Now, the most recent case that was intercepted is just yesterday on the 9th of July 2025. Now, if you put together all what we have registered from June down to the 7th of July, it totals about 223 migrants altogether. But then now let's add the number of what we had received yesterday. Yesterday there was an operation in Sanyang that was conducted. We received an intelligence that gave us tips that there is a particular irregular movement in Sanyang, because most of our operations are intelligence-led. We have people that engage with the public, they share with us information, and we act upon that. And when we acted on that particular intelligence, we were able to apprehend the suspect, who is also a Senegalese in this case. And then we also realized that there are 3 compounds in Sanyang village where this number of migrants were all intercepted. And we're talking about 167 migrants just in one operation. And they were harbored in 3 compounds within Sanyang. Now a question can be asked again, how is it possible that people can be living around our neighborhoods, moving up and down, and we tend to raise a suspicious mindset as to what is happening in that environment? So the public has to maintain that vigilance, because if we are not in all areas, they should be able to at least serve as the eye of the immigration department. So we also realized that after the case was reported, the suspect was apprehended, we were able to apprehend all these 167 would-be migrants that were in Sanyang, and they're currently with us here at the Tangi migration base as we speak. Now what is the aggregation of this number of migrants we had recently? Out of the 167, only 22 of them are Gambians. I have to emphasize this because we need to know very well that there are reasons why people want to use Gambia as a route. We have been seeing many debates or arguments on the media that we have been very much strict when it comes to non-Gambians. And this should serve as a limelight for you to understand why GID does not just want to strictly avoid our regulations. So we had Gambians who are just 22. 77 of these migrants were Senegalese in this last case. 50 of them were Guineans. And these two countries are just at our immediate borders. You will understand that Guinea is not far from the Gambia, and they can easily enter through the Basin or the areas. Senegalese can come in different locations within the country. And then we also have 11 of them that are Malians, 2 were Ivorians, 1 Liberian, and then the number that we had received also included 1 pregnant woman who was also involved. Now, on gender aggregation, we had 113 of them were males, and 54 of them were female. You can see also how the number has increased in the female aggregation. We used to have 5, 6, or 2 females, right? We're talking about 54 now that were also involved in this case. And some of them have minors with them, very young kids, that they want to risk their lives and go into this irregular migration route. So we had 25 of them who were minors out of this 167 number. Now imagine a child of 11 years, 15 years, or let's say, for example, less than that, taking a risk of going into a boat in this rainy season when you are not able to predict what time is it going to rain. And then you're now supposed to spend days at the sea before you're able to reach your destination. In fact, reaching becomes at the peak of it. That is just our false hope. What happens if they capsize within the sea? Are we able to consider some of the circumstances? But then the trend continues, and we think we have to add more efforts to be able to make people understand that the regular route is too risky for us to be able to sacrifice our lives into it. Now, overall, on all these interceptions from the 7th of July to the 10th of, from the 7th of June to the 10th of July today, we realized that we had 382 migrants that have been intercepted in different operations. And then, if you look at them in aggregates based on numbers, out of these 382, 323 of them are all non-Gambians. 323 of these migrants we intercept are non-Gambians. And only 31 of them from these operations are Gambians. Now you look into the gender aggregation, we had 62 of them who are females, 219 were believed to be male, and then we have 27 of them who are minors overall. So these are recent cases that occurred in just a peak period of 1 month, from the 7th of June to the 10th of July. And the month of July, going down towards September, is a peak period for irregular migration. We have to be very vigilant because they would assume that we are not working because it is raining. But our officers are active every night, every day, to make sure that we're able to safeguard the image of Gambia. We're able to protect our borders, and we are not going to tolerate people using our porous borders as a mechanism to travel outside the country. Migration becomes a right of every citizen, every Gambian, every non-Gambian. But it is only your right if it is legal. Traveling in an illegal means it goes against our immigration laws. It goes against conventions that we have signed to as a country. And we must not at any point relent in some of these occasions. Now overall, we would have to highlight that above all these things we have registered, are we perfect as a department? Is everything 100%? And the answers will be no, because there is no way we can say whatever we do is perfect. Our operational pillar, through the commissioner and the border patrol unit, are doing amazingly well. But they also have some gaps. They face some challenges. And most of these challenges are not sometimes set onto the public to also understand. Now, what are the challenges we face in some of these cases? I'll give you a context. In 2025, GID had 28 cases that we want to prosecute. Just 2025, from January down to July. Now, out of these 28 cases, 6 of them had been prosecuted and were able to get a verdict. Now, 22 of them are still pending cases as we speak. And then we have more cases still being added onto that list. So now, we may want to ask, what is the reason why we have more pending cases than approved cases? And the answer is, the jail doesn't have the power to prosecute people directly. Remember, if you look at our historical context as a department, we started off as a subunit in the Gambia Police Force until we're able to now delineate at some point. But then we do not have the power, based on the immigration laws, to be able to prosecute people in this case. So what we do is, our prosecution unit works with the Gambia Police Force unit to take these cases to the court. We are not able to determine how long the case will last at the court, and we cannot also tell how fast will the police take over those cases to be able to support in most cases. And that is why we have this number of pending cases currently with us. So we believe it's important that if GID has the prosecuting powers, then now it is going to streamline our efforts and be able to impact what we are doing. How do we expect to get this? There is an immigration bill currently ongoing. I'm sure you're already aware of that. And that bill will give us the powers to be able to pass into a law, and we have those powers. But the bill also becoming a law goes to legislative procedures. The NAM members have a part to play. The cabinet also have a part to play. And I believe if they understand the challenges we are facing and how the dynamics are evolving, they should be able to give it a priority for us to be able to at least redress to some of these concerns. Another challenge we face in our operations includes challenges with mobility. Remember, we have cases in Bara, Sanyong, Katong, etc. And then it's not possible for you to just have 2 or 3 vehicles to be able to go to all these areas. If you look at our operational base here, we have less than 2 vehicles currently with us. That means we need more resources to be able to support those operations. And then the last area I would want to also adjust on is when we intercept these migrants, they are brought to Tanje here. In collaboration with the Red Cross Society, they're able to at least fend for their livelihood. But then, what happens if GID was also able to get budgetary allocations to support these migration activities? That will also enhance our work and be able to promote more efficient migration management. So in conclusion, I just want to acknowledge the efforts of our interagency partners. First, the Gambia Police Force had been very much supportive in most of our cases. The Gambian Navy, as you all know, are responsible of going to the sea for patrol bases. And in many occasions, they have been able to intercept migrants and will give it to us. So they've also been very supportive. We also have the Gambia Red Cross Society who have also been very supportive. If you go outside right now, you can see them taking care of the welfare of those migrants as well. And most importantly, we also had partners that are outside the country. We have the COP Gambia project that also supports our logistical operations and also give them capacity to be able to investigate these cases. We also have the Guardia Civil from Spain that also supports our engagements. We would also want to extend our regards to the Ministry of Interior, our line ministry, for also giving us more support for being able to do most of these activities. While we acknowledge our successes, register more accomplishments, we also highlight the gaps we have faced in these operations. And we believe that stakeholders out there, the government of the Gambia, and other potential partners should be able to come to the limelight and support the work of the Gambia Immigration Department. With these few remarks, I would invite any questions that you may want to have to ask the questions. We have Commissioner Hatta Boyang, who is the operations lead. We also have Chief Superintendent Omar F. Sedikan, who is the coordinator of the Border Patrol Unit. We have Assistant Commissioner Binta KJ Barrow, who is the Commissioner for the Migration Management Unit, and we also have DSI, who's also with us here as the Commandant of the GID Training School. So if you have any questions, and then it relates to any of them, they will chip in to be able to answer some of those concerns. I open the floor for you to ask any concerns you may have. Yes.
Thank you so much, GRTS. My question is the border compromise to have allowed immigrants to come use the Gambia as a harbor or as haven way to get to the illegal migrations, or there is weak capacity to address this inflow of immigrants to use the Gambia as haven to illegal migrations that would scope the number to 382?
Yes. Thank you so much. We can take a second question before we answer the question. A second one.
Attempted departures that we have in the country, and then some of the factors or responsible for this has been highlighted by the PRO. Coming back to your question, it's important that questions like this are asked, and then I would like to inform everyone that it's not that we are weak in our capacity as immigration to handle these issues. But if you look at the geographical location of this country, we only share a boundary with Senegal. And then the porous nature of our border make it a difficult thing for the GID to be able to manage or control some of the movement of people into our country. And another factor responsible also for this increase of non-Gambians using Gambia, the source of Gambia as a stepping stone or a transit point is because of the free movement protocol of the ECOWAS. Gambia is a signatory to the ECOWAS free movement protocol, and then the protocol observed that citizens of each member state can freely enter into each other's country as a citizen, but with the condition. But as I said, due to the porous nature of the border, some people circumvent the borders to enter the Gambia and then join this route of irregular migration. But also we have other people that aid and abet the entry of these people into the country, which also includes our own citizens. As been highlighted by PRO, we have seen that we have interceptions, and then most of these migrants are harbored into compounds. This also is a hindrance to the immigration department in our foreign zones, because if non-Gambians or non-documented Gambians are harbored in a compound, and then it is not reported, it is an offense against the Immigration Act at the first place. So the responsibility of compound owners, local authorities like PIFs and SAFOS, would also help us to mitigate this problem by reporting to the nearest immigration or police post once they have people that are not the usual habitant of those compounds. Because if you see a number of people within your compound, at least you should be able to know that this is not a familiar face and this number is not as usual in this area. So we are also reaching out to the community, telling them that it is an offense against the Immigration Act, laws of the Gambia, that you harbor a person in your compound which is not a habitual resident and not a legal resident in this country, more especially in a number that is more than the numbers that we usually see. If I had answered your question. Yes.
So the second question is asking about the fate of the non-Gambians that are intercepted, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Into our country, the Gambia, normally pass through legal borders. Okay? They comes in with their national documents and they will go through all immigration procedures to get into our country. And normally, their reason of coming will be visit to family visits, family and friends. But now, if they get into our country, the tent will now change. They will now look into what? This regular migration. But remember that their time of staying in our country, they'll be staying with our own people, our own Gambians, and in our own homes. Okay? Then the other thing will start, that is the migration. So we want every other Gambian, non-Gambian, or residents of the Gambia to help the immigration to give information about these people. Okay? The other question I want to answer is, you talk about after we do the facilitation of these migrants, what happened? That is, we have a national return mechanism whereby we involve other stakeholders. Okay. Normally, if you see, most of these migrants are here purposely to use our borders, to use our borders and travel to the Canary Island. So now, if that is impossible, their intention is not to stay again. They want to go back. So normally, this is not a deportation. It's just a repatriation for them to voluntary repatriation. They have to get back to their country of origin, because the mission they are here for is not succeeded, have failed. So they have to get back to the country of their country of origin. And in doing that, we normally facilitate their movement through the help of other stakeholders. You can say the IOM or the Red Cross and the immigration with the Ministry of Interior we facilitate and we send them to the nearest border or their point of entry. To their point of entry, then the other stakeholders or the other counterpart, the Senegalese, remember he said we have only border with Senegal. Senegal will now also facilitate their other movement to the other border that they come through, and now finally to their country of origin. Thank you.
Questions. I will attend both of them in a very strategic way. Now, our relationship with the Gambia Police Force is very strong, quite strong. They've been very supportive towards our activities in trying to prosecute those people. But then remember that the Gambia Police Force also has its own mandate. There are crimes occurring every single day. Now, go and confirm how many police cases currently are ongoing. Now, we go back and also add extra cases for them. Just a single unit of the police is doing that. So the work becomes too much on them as well, and then they tend to prioritize which one do they think would be most important. So I think the best solution for this is for GID to have its own unit that can prosecute people without going through any other different institution. Once that is available, we don't have to go to the police to say, okay, we have this number of cases, we want to prosecute them. But we have lawyers in GID, master's degree holders, those who have that court capacity to be able to at least prosecute people. 2 of our commissioners are all law degree holders. And we have other junior officers who have also studied law and they're in the department. So it's not a capacity issue. We have the capacity. We have legally minded people that can fix it. But then again, like I said, it's still the legal gaps, the laws. How are we established as a department? What powers are we given? If those powers are not there, even if you have 100 men who can do the work, you cannot do it by yourself. So the challenge is not just because police is not forthcoming, they've been supportive, but then they sometimes will tend to also prioritize more cases than the GID cases. And in this case, the best solution is being able to have our own institute to be able to prosecute them. Your second case is talking about, if I'm not... The compound owners. So the compound owners are also perpetrators. Anybody who abets the illegal entry or the illegal stay of a person within the Gambia, it's an immigration offense. Even if it is not about irregular migration. At our own homes, if you have a visitor in your compound who is not documented, you are offending the immigration laws. So they're also perpetrators just like the organizers. But again, we have to know, we know they're perpetrators. But what immigration law, what law guides our work that we need to prosecute them against this particular act? That's the issue now. Because there is no law in the Gambia right now that has directly say smuggling migrants in the country is illegal. There's no law. It is only active in our immigration bill, which is yet to be approved. I have to acknowledge that efforts have been made of recent that is very forthcoming towards the bill. Our officers were able to engage with the Ministry of Interior. There are some adjustments were made, and we promise that it is going to be expedited. But again, it's still not approved. And as a result, we have to just maneuver, use some immigration offenses, and be able to charge these people. So the gap there is the law that criminalizes migrant smuggling in the Gambia is not there. And that is why you can see Senegal, if you smuggle a migrant, the law gives them the power to prosecute you, and you're taken to prison for that. In the Gambia, you organize one journey, you gain, let's say, for example, $300,000. You go to a court, you are, at most, you are fined about $50,000, 50,000, or 5,000. So it becomes now a business venture for them. I will go, organize and fail, they will take me to court, I will pay the amount they requested, and go to have a second trade. Because it is a business fix for them. So the law is what is not giving us the powers to be able to stop the migrants. So imagine if you had received somebody who received 200,000 as an amount from the migration route, and that guy is charged to pay, for example, $1 million. I'm just giving a sample. Do you think that guy would again dare to go back and organize similar theft? The purpose of the law is for deterrence, to prevent people from doing the act. If it is not there, they will still go ahead with the law. So that is why it still becomes a challenge in most of these cases. Do we have any other question?
So how is the progress of this immigration law?
The bill has gone far. In my previous briefings, I said it was at the ministry. Now, the ministry had made some oversight observations, and we were asked to make the adjustment. The adjustment had been made and sent back to him. Copies of it have been printed for him now to be able to take it to the cabinet for them to also do their part before it goes to the assembly. I have also said that even before it goes to the assembly, we have engaged with the NAM members directly. We had a stakeholder meeting with them. We discussed the content of the bill and how is it going to impact the work of the GID. So they know what the bill contains. So once it goes there, we are of the conviction that we're going to have it passed. But it's a legal procedure. We are not at any level to be able to control how fast it goes. We have done our part. We just have to wait for it to be able to go in most cases. So any other issue before we do the conclusions?
My follow-up was going to be, is the repatriation funded by taxpayers' money in the Gambia, or this is done by other stakeholders like IOM and the like?
Okay, that's a good question. You want to answer that? Okay.
They fear in and they support us to see that no, we take them out of the country. Okay? I said again, this is not a deportation. This is to help them to reunite with their family because the mission that brought them here have already failed. Okay, the one most beautiful thing that I want to say it here, that no, just to sensitize and build the capacity of most of our sisters with the trend have now came to from brother to sisters. We have seen how many females are now venturing into this bagway, the famous bagway. Most of these agents are scammers because for the past, most of our catch or whatsoever intersections, we have confirmed that most of these agents don't even have boats. So they will only come them, feed them for the time being, and disappear with their money. And these are non-Gambians. Okay? And they will never report in time until and unless the perpetrator or the accused have already left the country by the time that they will report to the nearest police stations. So we want you to understand this. They have no boat. There was no possible departure in Gambia here for the past 3 months. I think we only have one. So the rest, they have no boat. They only collect their money and disappear with their money. So we have to be very conscious. Our neighbors are very smart. We know them. That's why they all venture into this business. They are very smart. They will just play smart and take all your money, take all our money, and go back to their country of origin. So we want people to help us sensitize people to build their capacity that no, these people have no boat and they are not going. They only come this money together. Remember, if somebody will pay $60,000, 60 grand to 167 people, that's how many millions? You can collect that in a day, over a night, and then disappear. So we think we have to change our approach towards this migration. Thank you very much.
That is indeed a very important question. Remember, you've been hearing people talking about human rights issues every now and then. Now, the GID is a champion of human rights activities. And I said this not because I am the PRO of GID, but that is what I've seen, and that is what I've lived within the GID. The first thing you see when you came here is what? The Red Cross Society. They are our first point of contact when we intercept migrants. Remember, we are not given we don't have the health capacity. We have a medical team, but that is not their mandate. So when we have interception, the first thing we do is to call the Red Cross Society. In fact, sometimes if it is a border operation, we go with them at the border. They will receive them, we escort them, and then they will come to the ground. The Red Cross now will provide them with their feeding, 3 square meals a day. They will provide them psychosocial support. They also provide them any health issue that they may need. In a circumstance when somebody's health is deteriorating, the Red Cross doesn't have the powers to handle that. We refer them to the health center straightforward. So there is no circumstance when GID compromises with the health of those intercepted. Please let's take note that the migrants are not criminals. They are not perpetrators, but they are victims of the system. And by virtue of that, it is our mandate, it is our duty as law enforcement officers to safeguard their lives and their properties. So we don't joke with their welfare. If you ask them out there, they will tell you that we're taking care of them. We may have a capacity gap that I have to outline, that we don't have an adequate reception center where they can have their bed, sit down or lie down comfortable and sleep. That is a gap we faced. If you look at the reception center here, you don't see any beds. And since we're talking about human rights, they should be able to have a bed where they can sleep comfortably. But is it in GID's powers to be able to provide that center? Does our budget contain a place where we can build that center? So we only have our hopes on what? Budgetary allocations and support from partners that we are working with. And our director recently he traveled all the way to Germany and had engagements with them. And in most of his engagements, he always prioritized a center for reception. Just this morning, we had an engagement at the headquarters, and it was also a key thing that was discussed there, because we believe that despite all what we have accomplished, it is ideal for us to have a center where they can rest and sleep comfortably. Those who are supposed to repatriate too, before they go back to their country, where will they be sleeping? It's also important. So while we are very much cognizant of their human rights, we still have a gap of a place where they can sleep comfortably in this case. I hope that answers your question.
Right, but I have a few more questions.
Okay, Awa, yes.
So regarding that, how well are you guys preparing to make sure these people are at safer place and safer hand? Because when anyone comes in and see them outside, I don't think that helps much. It's considering the fact that, you know, they've gone through a lot and they have minor babies too. So how well are you guys putting in your efforts to make sure that they're safe, and next time when these things happen again, they're put into a good consideration?
How well are we doing that? The first thing is to expedite our investigations, because the longer the investigation takes, the longer they also spend here. That is why when we intercept, the first thing we do is, even at night, we have our team on board to study investigations. And once they are done, they collect all the facts, we release them to go home. We engage with the families as well. Now, what else do we do? When you came, you can see officers around the building trying to guard them, because they are migrants that have been intercepted, but we still have to safeguard their safety. So if they sleep here, we also sleep here. They don't sleep here alone. If you ask him what time he went to bed yesterday, he wouldn't tell you, because he didn't sleep. If you ask commandant over there, it's the same thing. So whatever challenge they are facing here is what our guys are also going through to make sure they keep them safe. So, but then we have our limitations. I have to say this again. In as much as we want to keep you safe, if you don't have the powers to keep you safe, what do we do? Play our parts and then make other efforts to see how best can we close the gap. And the gap is they can only comfortably, conveniently be recepted here if there is a place that is conducive. And that is at this point not available as we speak. And we have to be frank on that particular point. Any other concerns? If there is none, I would want to take this opportunity to just remind you as media personnel. Of recent, you have been seeing so many publications about the GID being made about our operations. And what is happening is non-Gambians are using the media as a way to influence our enforcement activities. Why do I say this? You would observe that it is our mandate to ask every single person within this country to provide documents. Whether you're a Gambian or a non-Gambian, you have to provide that. We are not going to be very much complacent in trying to implement our mandate. And we are not going to also give much regard to people that publish issues of no substance. The reason being is, if we sit and follow what is being said on the media, fail to do our operational activities, you will see a scourge of Gambians, non-Gambians into this country. And when that happens, it becomes a risk to every Gambian who lives in this country. So we want to say that while it is your duty to publish information, do make sure you avoid providing fake information. Avoid misinformation, avoid disinformation. Engage when you receive an information to confirm how authentic it is. Because so long you post issues that is going against the image of the GID, it will compromise how people also perceive our operations. Imagine a case when a GID operative, a group of them, went to a place to inspect the area, and we had non-Gambians that came out with weapons to resist activities of the officers. And now at that juncture, people with cutlasses and other things, you expect us to fold our hands and lead them to the places very genuinely. We have to know that the use of reasonable force, minimal force, is a legal issue in operations. We are empowered by the criminal code of conduct, the criminal code of conduct, to be able to use minimal force for anybody who resists our operatives. And that use of minimal force is not against any human rights standards. The safety of our operatives comes first when it comes to engagements. So it is our job to tell the people to also understand that if you receive an order from an operative, then it's also their mandate to keep themselves safe and avoid any conflicts along the path. So it's also your duty as a media to engage with people, because you have a wider reach. Let them know what they should do and how can they also support the GID's activities. We have also seen occasions where a Gambian will harbor a non-Gambian. Immigration officers will go and ask for documents, they will stand to defend them, that they will not get those documents in many occasions. So these are all things that we are confronted with, and we think it's the right time for us now to desist from some of those acts. Let us support our enforcement officers to be able to at least keep this country safe and secure as we all dream as Gambians. If there is no other concern, I think I would draw the curtain here. Okay. Commissioner wanted us to speak in Mandinka for the locals, but I think that could also be the work of the media personnel in this case. When you report, you may also make sure you localize this so people get to understand what is being discussed here, right? We have a very good one. Sinodabo is very good with the Mandinka person. So I will take this chance to thank you for your presence here. Okay. I want to take this chance to express our appreciation for the media. Despite the short notice, you all endeavored to be here. Our cooperation with you had been very forthcoming, and we look forward to more collaboration as much as possible. Always feel free, if you have concerns, reach out to us. We'll be eager to answer those questions for you. Thank you all for being here, and that's the last part of it.